Zach Daniels here, just coming in, dropping a little recap of what's going on in the NBA playoffs. I've been watching it pretty closely, I think, as much as I can. The West Coast games are really hard to keep up with. They're so late at night. I'm enjoying all these games that I tune into, besides maybe the Nets ones. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But, yeah, good playoffs. And we, right now, are down to 8 teams. Right now, it's the Sixers versus the Hawks. We got the Bucks versus the Nets. The Clippers versus the Jazz. And the Suns versus the Nuggets. We're going to start this off with my favorite team in the whole playoffs, the 76ers. So, before I even get into the Sixers and the Hawks right now, I just wanted to highlight the fact that there's only 8 teams left, and only 3 of them have even won a championship. The Hawks won one in 1958, the Bucks were in 1971, and the Sixers were in 1983. So we're about to crown a champion for the first time in a very long time. And the rest of the teams, by the way, the rest of those teams after those 3 have never won one. Never won a championship. The Nets, the Jazz, the Suns, the Clippers, and the Nuggets have all not won one. That is absolutely insane to me. So, Sixers and Hawks, right now it's even. This is being recorded today. It's even 1-1. Joel Embiid had a torn meniscus and missed the last 2 games of the Wizards series. And he comes back. We didn't think he was going to play for this series. We thought we were going to sit him out and he was going to have to try and get healthy for him to come back in. Not the case. Not the case at all. He actually was balling in Game 1 and continued to ball in Game 2. Game 1, though, went to the Hawks. They had an unbelievable first half. They were leading by 20 after the first half. And the Sixers had a pretty good rally from behind, but they still lost by 4. It was an exciting game, 128 to 124. Game 2, different story. The Sixers, the Hawks were hanging around. They were being a little bit annoying, but the Sixers came out on top pretty handily. And it also, that was the Shake Milton game, because coming off the bench, I mean, Shake has been bad off the bench. He's only a bench player, but he's been bad off the bench for months. And all of a sudden, you know, he was non-existent, and he didn't play until the middle of the third quarter. The bench did not have a single point until the middle of the third quarter. They put Shake Milton in. He starts rattling off points, knocking down 3-pointers. And that's when the game got a little bit out of hand, and that's where the Sixers took over. Ultimately, I think they take this in 6. I think they're going to have 2 games in Atlanta. I think they split there. I think even though they're very good on the road, I think they'll split with Atlanta, because, I mean, it's just the home court advantage, but I don't think it's not the same as in Philly, but I'm just going to give it to Atlanta because they look like they can scrap. They can scrap pretty good. So I think they're going to fight and stay in this at least until we get back to Philly and the Sixers close out in Philadelphia. Now we're going to talk about the Nets and the Bucks. The Nets and the Bucks was supposed to be a good series. I'm pretty sure in the last episode I gave a lot of props to the Bucks and thought that they could make a good run this year.
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
That's not happening. It's not happening at all. Game 1 was a little bit close, but the Nets handled it. Game 2 was a slaughter fest. It was just domination from the get-go. Like, the Nets just dominated from every KD, Kyrie, Blake Griffin was throwing down dunks. I mean, there was no stopping them. There's no stopping them. And if the Nets keep playing, and the Nets didn't have James Harden. They did not have James Harden. That series is already over. They're going back to Milwaukee, but that series is already over in my eyes unless the Bucks make a dramatic turnaround, because they looked lifeless. I don't know how they're going to recover from that. I don't know how good Giannis is going to have to play. They're going to need Chris Middleton to step up. They need the other guys because Giannis can't do it all. It's the way it is everywhere. Chris Middleton, I think, can do it, but I think he could step up and really help the Bucks. But I don't. The Nets are just too loaded right now, and I think the only people that can really give them a run for their money is Philadelphia with a healthy Joel Embiid. So I'm going to take the Nets Man, I hope it goes to 5. I hope it's not a sweep. I just hope it's not a sweep. That's all. Okay, so what's cool about the Western Conference right now is none of these teams have ever won a championship. That is fun. That is very exciting to see. I'm going to go into the Suns versus the Nuggets because the Nuggets won against the Blazers in what I thought was the most fun playoff series I had seen in quite some time. The Nuggets and the Blazers had some great games. There was that double overtime Nuggets win, which was where Damian Lillard went absolutely insane, and they still lost. It's just, I feel so bad for them. But the Nuggets and Suns I think is going to be just another good series. But I do think the Suns will take this one. Just because outside of Jokic for the Nuggets, I just feel like the Suns are clicking right now. And with CP3 at the helm, Devin Booker can go off any moment, and he can put up Dame Lillard numbers. Maybe not 55, but he dropped 47 to eliminate the Lakers. So, and yeah, DeAndre Ayton. I just really like that team. I just really like that team. I like the Nuggets too, but just no Jamal Murray. It's not the same. It's not. You need Jamal Murray there. They're doing fine without him. Yeah, Michael Porter Jr. You know, they got good players. I just don't think they match up with the Suns team, which seems to be on a roll right now. Yeah, really, really cool to see the Suns here too, because they sucked a couple years ago, and Devin Booker, you know, people were just saying Devin Booker was stat padding on a crappy team. Dude, he's still stat padding on a way better team. So, you know, you got to respect it. And I think the Suns will take this. I'm also going to say this goes 6 games. I think the Nuggets can win a couple. Wouldn't be amazed if this goes Game 7. I would love to see a Game 7 of this series. That would be absolutely sick. But I just think the Suns will take this one. And now we go to the Jazz and the Clippers. I think the Jazz will win ultimately, but the Clippers, I think this goes to Game 7. I think this goes to Game 7. I think why I'm really not even sure. I'm really not even sure. All I know is that the Game 1 was intense because the Clippers had a fantastic lead going into halftime, and the Jazz came out on fire in the third quarter, and they just kept going into the fourth. They pulled it out by 3 points. So I mean, you know, so the Jazz are up right now, but I feel like the Clippers are going to get their comeback. I think they're going to split at Utah and at LA, and then it really comes down to who wins those last couple games. And they also won that game without Mike Conley. So that's huge. Mike Conley, poised vet, but I think the Jazz will take this either way in Game 7. I think this is going to go the distance. I got to watch more of them. I know with Donovan Mitchell on the court, scoring as many points as he does, like I think he put up 45 in Game 1. That you got to slow that down. But you know, the Jazz also have the issue of trying to stop Kawhi and Paul George. I feel like that's going to be a good matchup to watch. All these West Coast games are going to be at like 10 o'clock at night for me, 10:30 at night. It's so hard to stay up sometimes. I pass out by the third, fourth quarter. So, but you know, whenever I watch these games, like I said, these NBA playoffs have been fantastic. I'm enjoying the hell out of them, and I'm glad I can give you this recap, even though I couldn't join the team. So I'm gonna throw it back to you guys. Deuces.